Hello and welcome to Business Standard Views of the Week. Who are the most willing participants in the rich man's game exposed by the Pandora papers? What are the strategies India can adopt to achieve net zero emissions? And what does the current coal shortage reveal about the Indian economy? Subscribe to Business Standard and read this week's top opinion pieces to find out. We start off with an incisive piece that delves into the revelations made by the Pandora papers. As the Pandora papers unearth a list of secret stashes in tax havens, accountability becomes the call of the day. But TNN's latest column argues what we get instead is hypocrisy. While Switzerland or the Cayman Islands might come to mind, the game has new players now. Nanan reveals these new Switzerlands and who the most willing participants are in this rich man's game. While delving into the Indian angle, he also highlights the one major scheme in India that has allowed large sums of money to change hands with little transparency. While the rich continue to ring fence their wealth or even dodge the taxman outright, getting those in power to do something concrete remains a challenge. Speaking of challenges, our next piece deals with perhaps the biggest one of them all. About 130 countries, including the US, are considering accepting 2050 as the target for reducing emissions to net zero. China, the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases, has set 2060 as its date. India hasn't yet given a commitment year, and the world will keenly watch what position it takes at the COP26. However, India has already unleashed a variety of policies and measures to reach the net zero goal. While outlining what these steps are, Vinayak Chatterjee's latest column explains the 5 distinct strategies that India can adopt to achieve net zero emissions. It's clear that reducing emissions while still ensuring rapid growth is the primary task at hand for Indian policymakers. As far as growth is concerned, here is an argument that this should consider. Many believe that the challenges India is facing on the economic front will be overcome soon. Are they on the right track? The former chief economic advisor who just stepped down has said that he expects India to grow at more than 7% this decade. Is he being realistic? In his latest column, Akar Patel brings together data from diverse sources in an attempt to answer these questions. And in the process, he outlines how India can chart out what he believes to be a more realistic path for the next 20 years. One thing is for sure, policymakers need to adopt a clear eyed approach to the economy to ensure growth going forward. But it seems that they have missed a more immediate crisis that was brewing right beneath their nose. India's post pandemic recovery could literally face a blackout as the country's power plants are running dangerously low on coal. Business Standard reveals the chronic deficiencies that have led to this crisis. While outlining where Coal India Limited has been found wanting, the editorial also places the current crisis in the context of the larger structural problems facing the Indian economy. The coal shortage is an immediate challenge that needs an urgent fix. But what about the medium term challenges that the country is facing? Consider the following. Encouraged by the ongoing economic recovery, Moody's Investor Service recently changed its outlook on India's sovereign ratings from negative to stable. Standard & Poor's also has a stable outlook on India. However, Business Standard argues that this should not lead to complacency in the policy establishment. While highlighting the constraints for growth in the medium term, the editorial also identifies what needs to be done for the one economic engine that is still firing and provides a policy prescription for sustaining higher growth. On the topic of ensuring growth, there is one industry whose good health is vital for any 21st century economy. Our next piece delves with its revival. At first glance, last month's Big Bang telecom relief package might seem disappointing. However, a closer look shows the possibility of real promise. In his latest column, Shyam Punappa outlines why it could, in fact, be a subtle masterstroke. He also delves into how challenges associated with setting up a ubiquitous 4G network and later upgrading to 5G and 6G can be met. From debt resolution to the subject of licensed spectrum costs, Punappa goes on to flesh out what the government must do next to truly revive and invigorate the telecom sector. That sums up what we had to say on macro topics this week. Now, we move on to the micro and bring this episode of BS Views to a close with an interesting piece on an ongoing corporate tussle. It is abundantly clear that Invesco, the largest shareholder in Zee Entertainment, and the Goenka family, who are the promoters, will fight it out to the bitter end. It should have been a straightforward battle, but it isn't. Prosenjit Datta's latest column explains why that is the case. While doing so, it delves into the interesting history of how promoters in India have fought for their companies, often retaining control and sometimes being ejected from them. It also outlines the implications of the Invesco Goenka saga for regulators and big shareholders in other Indian companies.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www